The gentle hum of the Starship Audacity's engines filled the command deck as Captain Eloan Frost gazed out at the swirling nebula before them. Her steel-gray eyes narrowed as she spotted an anomaly amidst the cosmic dust. "Kieran, what do you make of that?" she asked, gesturing towards a faint glimmer that seemed out of place. Lieutenant Commander Kieran Voss, the ship's science officer, peered at his console. "It's moving, Captain, and fast." Before anyone could react, a sleek vessel materialized beside the Audacity, its hull shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. The crew collectively held their breath as a transmission crackled through the ship's speakers. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We come in peace and extreme curiosity." Captain Frost's eyebrows shot up. "Well, I'll be damned. First contact, and they speak English." The alien voice continued. "We are the Zephyrians, and we've been studying your transmissions for decades. Your television is most enlightening." Frost exchanged glances with her executive officer, Commander Jasper Quill. "TV, huh? Let's hope they didn't learn everything from reality shows." "Captain," Kieran interjected, "they're requesting permission to dock." "Well, isn't this just peachy?" Frost muttered. "All right, let's roll out the welcome mat. But keep security on high alert. I don't want any surprises." As the alien ship nestled alongside the Audacity, the crew scrambled to prepare for their extraterrestrial visitors. The docking bay doors hissed open, revealing three tall, willowy figures with luminescent skin and eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The lead alien stepped forward, its movements graceful and fluid. "I'm Ambassador Lyrics of the Zephyrian Cooperative. We've traveled far to meet you." Captain Frost squared her shoulders. "Welcome aboard the Starship Audacity, Ambassador. I'm Captain Eloan Frost. This is quite the surprise visit." Lyrics tilted its head, a gesture unnervingly similar to a curious bird. "Surprise? Oh, we do hope it's a pleasant one. We've been practicing your customs. Is this the part where we shake hands?" Frost nodded, extending her hand. As Lyrics' fingers wrapped around hers, she felt a tingling sensation like static electricity. "Well, you've certainly got that down. Though I must admit, I'm curious about how you learned our language so well." The ambassador's eyes sparkled. "Ah yes, your sitcoms were particularly helpful. We found Friends to be an excellent guide to human interaction." Commander Quill stifled a laugh. "Oh boy, this ought to be good. Perhaps," Lyrics continued, "we could engage in the ritual of hanging out. We've prepared extensively for this cultural exchange." Captain Frost managed to keep a straight face. "Of course, Ambassador. We'd be delighted to hang out. Why don't we start with a tour of the ship?" As they moved through the corridors, the Zephyrians marveled at every little thing, from the automatic doors to the food replicators. Their childlike wonder was infectious, and soon even the most skeptical crew members found themselves smiling. "And this," Lyrics exclaimed, pointing at a potted plant, "must be your botanical companion. How fascinating that you bring pieces of your world with you into the stars." Lieutenant Voss couldn't contain himself any longer. "It's just a houseplant, Ambassador. For decoration." Lyrics' face fell. "Oh, we thought perhaps it was a revered crew member, given its prominent placement." "Not quite," Frost explained gently. "But your enthusiasm is refreshing." As they reached the ship's lounge, Lyrics turned to the captain with an eager expression. "We've studied many aspects of human culture, but there's one concept we find particularly intriguing. Perhaps you could enlighten us?" Frost raised an eyebrow. "And what concept would that be?" "Humor," Lyrics exclaimed. "Specifically, this thing you call sarcasm. We've observed it in your transmissions, but its nuances elude us. It seems to involve saying the opposite of what one means, yet it's considered amusing rather than deceptive. Most puzzling." Captain Frost exchanged a look with her crew. This was going to be interesting. "Well, Ambassador," she began, "sarcasm is a bit of an art form. It's all about context and delivery. For example, if I were to say, 'Oh great, alien visitors. Just what we needed today,' I don't actually mean it's great. I'm expressing frustration through irony." Lyrics' brow furrowed in concentration. "But UDO seem pleased to meet us. Are you expressing frustration now? No, Frost hastened to explain. That was just an example. We are genuinely glad to meet you. I see, Lyric said slowly. So, if I were to say, this ship is absolutely the pinnacle of technological advancement, while observing your rather primitive propulsion systems. Commander Quill coughed to hide his amusement. You're getting the hang of it, Ambassador. Lyrics beamed. How delightful. We must learn more about this sarcasm. It seems an essential part of human communication. As the Zephyrians eagerly pestered the crew for more examples and explanations of sarcasm, Captain Frost couldn't shake the feeling that they might be opening a Pandora's box. Still, as she watched the aliens attempt to mimic human eye rolls and deadpan deliveries, she couldn't help but smile. Well, folks, she announced to her crew, looks like we've just become intergalactic communication instructors. Let's hope the universe is ready for sarcastic aliens. Little did they know, the repercussions of this cultural exchange would echo across the galaxy in ways none of them could have possibly imagined. As the days stretched into weeks, the crew of the starship Audacity found themselves becoming unwitting professors in the art of sarcasm. The Zephyrians, led by the ever-enthusiastic Ambassador Lyrics, proved to be insatiable students. Captain Alolan Frost massaged her temples, fighting off yet another headache. Remind me again why we thought this was a good idea? Commander Jasper Quill smirked. Because clearly, teaching aliens the finer points of human snark is essential to intergalactic diplomacy. Oh, well done, Quill, Frost retorted. You've mastered the art of kicking your superior when she's down. Lyrics, who had been observing the exchange with rapt attention, clapped its hands in delight. Marvelous! The layers of meaning, the subtle intonations. It's positively thrilling. Lieutenant Commander Kieran Voss groaned. Great! We've created a monster. A monster? Lyrics gasped, its eyes widening in alarm. But I assure you, we Zephyrians are entirely peaceful. No, Voss hurried to explain. It's just an expression. It means we might have gone too far with the sarcasm lessons. Lyrics' face brightened. I see. So when you say we're monsters, you actually mean we're making remarkable progress. How clever. Frost pinched the bridge of her nose. Not exactly. Look, maybe we should take a break from the sarcasm for a while. Why don't we focus on other aspects of cultural exchange? But the Zephyrians were not to be deterred. They had latched onto sarcasm with a fervor that bordered on obsession. Every conversation became an opportunity to practice their newfound skill, often with mixed results. During a formal dinner in the ship's mess hall, Zephyrian diplomat Nix attempted to compliment the chef. This meal is absolutely inedible, they announced proudly. I've never tasted anything so revolting in my life. The chef, unaware of the ongoing sarcasm lessons, looked crestfallen. It took 15 minutes of frantic explanations and apologies to smooth things over. As the weeks wore on, the Zephyrians' attempts at sarcasm grew more frequent and more creative. They began incorporating it into every aspect of their interactions, from diplomatic negotiations to casual conversations. During a joint scientific expedition to a nearby asteroid belt, Zephyrian scientist Astra peered through a microscope at a rock sample. Oh, how utterly boring, they declared. Just some worthless space debris, containing mere traces of an unknown element that could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. Nothing to get excited about. Dr. Zura Kwan, the Audacity's geologist, blinked in confusion. Wait, did you actually find something important? Astra beamed. Indeed. I was employing sarcasm to emphasize the magnitude of the discovery. Did I not do it correctly? Dr. Kwan sighed. Maybe we should stick to straightforward communication for scientific matters. But the Zephyrians' enthusiasm was unstoppable. They began experimenting with different forms of sarcasm, from the subtle to the outrageously obvious. Puns and wordplay entered their lexicon, often with bewildering results. During a routine maintenance check, Zephyrian engineer Vex attempted to lighten the mood. I must say, your ship systems are light years ahead of ours. Get it? Light years? Because we're in space? Chief Engineer Rook Blackwood groaned. That's not even sarcasm. That's just a bad pun. Vex looked crestfallen. Oh, I thought combining humor forms would be exponentially amusing. My quantum leaping comedy seems to have fallen short. Please, Blackwood begged, just hand me the Hydra spanner. As the cultural exchange continued, the crew of the Audacity found themselves caught between amusement and exasperation. The Zephyrians' attempts at sarcasm were often clumsy, sometimes offensive, and occasionally hilarious, but always well-intentioned. Captain Frost called an emergency meeting with her senior staff. All right, people, we need to address this situation. Any ideas? Lieutenant Voss raised a hand. We could always tell them we were joking about the whole sarcasm thing, that it's actually a grave insult in our culture. Oh, brilliant plan, Quill drawled. Lie to our new alien friends. That'll go over really well when they figure it out. Frost shot him a warning look. Let's table the sarcasm for now, shall we? We need real solutions. Dr. Kwan cleared her throat. Captain, if I may, perhaps we're looking at this the wrong way. The Zephyrians' interest in sarcasm, while overwhelming, shows a genuine desire to understand human culture. Maybe we should embrace it. Embrace it? Frost echoed incredulously. Doctor, have you heard them? They're turning every conversation into a minefield of misunderstandings. Exactly, Kwan pressed on. But think about it. They're struggling because they're trying to understand not just our words, but the intent behind them. The subtle cues, the context. In a way, they're striving for a deeper level of communication than we've ever attempted with an alien species. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Captain Frost nodded slowly. You may have a point, Doctor. All right, new plan. Instead of trying to curb their enthusiasm, we're going to channel it. We'll set up structured lessons, covering not just sarcasm, but the whole spectrum of human communication. Idioms, metaphors, subtext, the works. Commander Quill raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about this, Captain? We could be opening a real can of worms here. Frost's lips twitched in a smile. Oh, I'm sure, Commander. After all, what could possibly go wrong? As the senior staff filed out, determination mingled with trepidation on their faces. None of them could have predicted the ripple effect their decision would have across the galaxy. The Zephyrians were about to take their crash course in human communication to a whole new level, and the universe would never be quite the same. As the starship Audacity continued its journey through the cosmos, news of the Zephyrians' newfound fascination with human communication spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Other alien species, intrigued by the concept of sarcasm and its apparent importance to humans, began to seek out contact with Earth vessels. Captain Aloan Frost found herself at the center of an interstellar cultural phenomenon she never could have anticipated. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Kieran Voss called out, his voice strained. We're receiving transmissions from, well, everywhere. Frost raised an eyebrow. Define everywhere, Kieran. I mean literally everywhere, Voss replied, his fingers flying over his console. We've got messages from the Andromedans, the Centauri Collective, even the notoriously reclusive Nebula Nomads. They're all requesting sarcasm tutorials. Commander Jasper Quill snorted. Well, isn't this just perfect? We've become the galaxy's comedy club. The sarcasm was lost on their Zephyrian guests, who had taken to following the crew around, notebooks in hand, documenting every nuance of human interaction. Ambassador Lyrics bounced on its toes, eyes shining with excitement. Captain Frost, this is a momentous occasion. We must share our knowledge with the galaxy. It's our duty as the foremost experts on human sarcasm. Frost pinched the bridge of her nose. Ambassador, I'm not sure you quite qualify as. But Lyrics was already tapping away at a datapad. I'm composing a response now. Greetings, galactic neighbors. We would be absolutely devastated to share our expertise in human communication with you. The last thing we want is to foster greater understanding between species. Wait! Frost lunged for the datapad, but it was too late. The message had been sent. Within hours, the Audacity was swarmed by alien vessels of all shapes and sizes. The ship's translators worked overtime as a cacophony of languages filled the comm channels. all demanding to know more about this mysterious human concept of not meaning what you say. The aftermath was chaos. The Andromedans, a species of hyperliteral crystalline beings, were thoroughly confused. Their ambassador, a shimmering entity named Prism, confronted Captain Frost in the conference room. "We do not understand," Prism chimed, its facets flickering in distress. "You claim to value honesty, yet you teach others to speak falsely? This is most illogical." Frost sighed. "It's not about dishonesty, Ambassador. It's about conveying meaning through context and tone." Prism's surfaces rippled. "Ah, I see. So when I say, 'This explanation is crystal clear,' I am actually implying that it is opaque." "No, that's just an idiom," Frost explained wearily. "Look, maybe we should start with something simpler." Meanwhile, the Centauri Collective, a hive mind of billions of tiny insectoid creatures, had taken to communicating exclusively in what they believed to be sarcasm. The result was a series of increasingly absurd statements that left the Audacity's diplomatic corps in a state of constant bewilderment. "We absolutely do not wish to establish trade relations with Earth," the Centauri representative buzzed. "And we definitely don't hope this will lead to a long and prosperous alliance between our species." Commander Quill threw his hands up in exasperation. "So, do you want to trade with us or not?" The Centauri swarm rearranged itself into a shape that might have been a shrug. "We thought the sarcasm was obvious. Do humans truly find this form of communication efficient?" As if the situation wasn't complicated enough, the Nebula Nomads, mysterious beings of pure energy, decided to get in on the action. They began transmitting pulses of radiation that they claimed were sarcastic light signals. Dr. Zura Kwan rushed onto the bridge. Her hair frizzled from static electricity. "Captain, we got a problem. The Nomads' sarcastic transmissions are interfering with our systems. Half the crew is reporting unexpected side effects." "What kind of side effects?" Frost demanded. As if on cue, Chief Engineer Rook Blackwood's voice came over the comm, several octaves higher than usual. "Captain, you're not going to believe this, but I can suddenly taste colors. And let me tell you, the color green is delicious." Frost closed her eyes, counting to 10. When she opened them, the situation hadn't magically resolved itself. "All right, that's IT. Voss, shut down all non-essential communications. Quill, get our Zephyrian friends in here now. It's time we had a little chat about the consequences of their cultural exchange." But before they could act, a new transmission cut through the chaos. A gravelly voice boomed through the speakers, silencing the chatter. "Attention, puny species of the galaxy. This is Grand Warlord ZYX of the Kraxan Empire. We have observed your pathetic attempts at mastering the human art of sarcasm. Obviously, we are tremendously impressed." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. The Kraxan were infamous for their literal-mindedness and complete lack of humor. The voice continued, dripping with menace. "We have decided that this sarcasm is a threat to galactic stability. Therefore, we will be arriving shortly to educate you on the virtues of straightforward communication. Prepare to be enlightened." As the transmission cut off, leaving a deafening silence in its wake, Captain Frost turned to her crew, her expression a mix of determination and disbelief. "Well," she said, her voice dripping with the very sarcasm that had started this mess, "isn't this just fantastic? Looks like we've managed to start an interstellar incident over figure of speech. I don't know about you, but I'm just thrilled to see what happens next." As the Audacity sensors picked up the approaching Kraxan warfleet, Frost couldn't help but wonder if perhaps there was such a thing as being too successful in cultural exchange. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to get a crash course in the law of unintended consequences, and the Audacity was right in the firing line. The starship Audacity hung in space, surrounded by a motley array of alien vessels. The situation, which had started as a simple lesson in human communication, had spiraled into a full-blown galactic crisis. And at the center of it all was Captain Alolan Frost, who was beginning to think that a career in deep space exploration might have been a mistake. "Status report. Frost barked, her eyes fixed on the main view screen where the ominous silhouettes of the Kraxan warships were growing larger by the second. Lieutenant Commander Kieran Voss's fingers danced over his console. "Not good, Captain. We've got the Kraxan fleet bearing down on us. The Andromedans are threatening to crystallize our hull if we don't explain sarcasm in concrete terms, and the Centauri Collective is, well, I think they're offering to help, but it's hard to tell with all the double negatives." Commander Jasper Quill snorted. "Oh, wonderful. I was worried this day might be boring." Ambassador Lyrics, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly perked up. "Oh, I understand that reference." The commander is employing sarcasm to express his dismay at our predicament. "How delightful." Frost rounded on the Zephyrian diplomat. "Ambassador, with all due respect, your delight is what got us into this mess. We need solutions, not commentary." Lyrics' luminescent skin dimmed slightly. I apologize, Captain. We truly meant no harm. We only wish to understand." Frost's expression softened. "I know, Ambassador. But right now, we need to focus on preventing an interstellar war over a figure of speech." As if on cue, the comm system crackled to life. The gravelly voice of Grand Warlord ZYX filled the bridge. "Attention, sarcasm spreaders. Your time is up. Surrender now and prepare for mandatory literacy classes in direct communication." Quill leaned towards Frost. "You know, for someone who claims to hate sarcasm, the Grand Warlord has a real flair for the dramatic." Frost shot him a warning look before addressing the comm. "Grand Warlord ZYX, this is Captain Iloan Frost of the Starship Audacity. There's been a misunderstanding. We'd like to discuss this peacefully." "Peacefully?" ZYX boomed. "Oh, I'm sure you would. Just like I'm sure that sarcasm isn't a threat to galactic stability. Prepare to be enlightened." The Kraxan ships began to power up their weapons. "Well, SHIT," Frost muttered. Then louder. "All hands, battle stations. Voss, get us out of here." But before Voss could engage the engines, a shimmering field enveloped the Audacity. "Captain," Dr. Zaraquan called from her station. "The Andromedans have locked us in some kind of crystalline stasis field. They're saying they won't release us until we speak plainly, as if things couldn't get any worse." The space around them began to warp and twist. The Nebula Nomads, in their misguided attempt to help, were bending the fabric of space-time into what they called ironic geometries. Frost felt a headache building behind her eyes. "This is ridiculous. We're about to start an interstellar war over a communication breakdown." And then, in that moment of crisis, inspiration struck. Frost straightened up, a glint in her eye. "Wait a minute. That's IT. Voss, open a channel to all ships. And get me the Universal Translator's control panel." As Voss complied, looking confused, Frost addressed the assembled fleet. "Attention, all vessels. This is Captain Iloan Frost. We've all been lost in translation, but I think I know how to fix it. Brace yourselves." With that, she began rapidly typing into the translator's control panel. Quill leaned over her shoulder. "Captain, what are you doing?" Frost grinned. "Fighting fire with fire, Commander. Or in this case, fighting miscommunication with more miscommunication." As she finished typing, she hit the broadcast button. Suddenly, every ship in the vicinity, including the Audacity, was flooded with a cacophony of voices, each speaking in a different language, tone, and context. The result was chaos. The Kraxan warships swerved erratically. The Andromedan's crystal field flickered and dissolved. The Centauri Collective swarm scattered in confusion. Even the Nebula Nomads' space-warping shenanigans ground to a halt. "What did you do?" Quill asked, his eyes wide. Frost's grin widened. "I set the Universal Translator to interpret everything as sarcasm, across all languages. Right now, every species out there is hearing the exact opposite of what everyone else is saying. They're experiencing what we've been dealing with for weeks, but on a massive scale. For several long moments, the silence of space was broken only by the sound of confused alien chatter. Then, slowly, something remarkable happened. Laughter began to ripple across the comm channels. First from the Zephyrians, then the humans, and soon, even the other alien races joined in. Grand Warlord ZYX's voice, now sounding more bewildered than menacing, came through. This is what you've been experiencing? This confusion? This absurdity? Welcome to the wonderful world of sarcasm, Warlord, Frost replied, unable to keep the smugness out of her voice. As the universal translator gradually returned to normal, a new atmosphere settled over the assembled fleet. The tension had broken, replaced by a shared sense of bemusement and, surprisingly, understanding. Ambassador Lyrics approached Frost, its eyes shining with a new kind of appreciation. Captain, I believe we've all learned a valuable lesson today. Perhaps we were too eager in our pursuit of understanding. We forgot that true communication is about more than just words. Frost nodded, feeling the weight of the past few weeks lift from her shoulders. You're right, Ambassador. Communication, like any powerful tool, comes with responsibility. It's not just about what we say, but how we say it and why. As the alien ships began to disperse, their leaders now clamoring for a proper cultural exchange program, with an emphasis on context, Frost turned to her crew. Well, she said, a tired but genuine smile on her face. I think it's safe to say that this has been the most uneventful mission of our careers. Wouldn't you agree? And this time, as laughter erupted across the bridge, there wasn't a trace of misunderstanding. In the weeks following the Great Sarcasm Standoff, as it came to be known, the galaxy found itself in a state of unprecedented cultural flux. The starship Audacity, once a simple exploration vessel, had become the unlikely nexus of a galactic communication revolution. Captain Alolan Frost stood at the viewport in her ready room, watching the stars streak by as the ship cruised at warp speed. The door chimed. Come in, she called, not turning around. Commander Jasper Quill entered, a datapad in hand and an amused expression on his face. Captain, you're going to love this. Frost raised an eyebrow. Oh, I'm sure I will. Hit me with it, Commander. Quill cleared his throat dramatically. Ahem. In recognition of her outstanding contribution to interstellar linguistics and diplomacy, Captain Alolan Frost is hereby invited to chair the first galactic conference on nuanced communication. Frost groaned. Please tell me you're being sarcastic. I'm afraid not, Quill replied, his grin widening. It gets better. The conference is to be held on, drum roll, please, Kraxin Prime. You've got to be kidding me. Frost pinched the bridge of her nose. The same Kraxins who were ready to enlighten us with their weapon systems? The very same, Quill confirmed. Apparently, Grand Warlord ZYX has had a change of heart. He's calling it the Great Misunderstanding now. Says it opened his eyes to the, and I quote, subtle intricacies of cross-species dialogue. Frost shook her head, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Well, isn't that just peachy? Anything else I should know? Just one more thing, Quill said, scrolling through his datapad. We've been asked to make a slight detour on our way to Kraxin Prime. It seems the Andromedans want to present you with a gift. They're calling it the Crystal Clear Award for Opacity in Communication. At that, Frost couldn't help but laugh. Now that's irony for you. All right, set a course. Let's see what the universe has in store for us next. As the Audacity altered its course, news of the upcoming conference spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never before shown interest in diplomacy were suddenly clamoring for invitations. The Nebula Nomads, in a gesture of goodwill, offered to host an energy being mixer with a theme of luminous wordplay. The Centauri Collective proposed a panel discussion on the art of saying everything by saying nothing, which somehow lasted both 5 minutes and 5 years simultaneously. Even the notoriously xenophobic Vortexians, a species that communicated entirely through interpretive dance, expressed interest in attending. Their message, a series of complex gyrations transmitted via hologram, was interpreted by the universal translator as, "We definitely don't want to learn more about this sarcasm. It absolutely won't help us understand the cosmic ballet of existence." As the Audacity approached the Andromedan home system, Lieutenant Commander Kieran Voss's voice came over the comm. "Captain, you might want to see this." Frost made her way to the bridge, Quill in tow. As they emerged from the turbolift, they were greeted by a sight that made them both stop in their tracks. The view screen showed a massive crystalline structure floating in space. As they watched, its facets shifted and realigned, forming words in a dozen different alien scripts before settling on English. "Welcome, Captain Frost. We're absolutely not thrilled to see you." Frost couldn't help but smile. "Well, would you look at that? Seems like the Andromedans have been practicing." As the Audacity docked with the crystal structure, Frost found herself reflecting on the strange journey that had led them to this point. What had started as a simple lesson in human communication had blossomed into a galactic movement. Species that had once struggled to understand each other were now eagerly exchanging idioms, metaphors, and yes, sarcasm. The ship's airlock hissed open, revealing a delegation of Andromedan diplomats. Their crystalline bodies shimmered with barely contained excitement. The lead diplomat stepped forward, its facets rearranging into an approximation of a smile. "Captain Frost, we are devastated by your arrival. Please, do not accept this token of our deepest apathy." It extended a crystalline appendage, offering a small, intricately carved object. As Frost accepted it, she realized it was a perfect miniature of the Audacity, rendered in flawless crystal. "It's beautiful," Frost said, turning the delicate model in her hands. I'm truly honored." The Andromedan's facets rippled in what might have been confusion. You speak plainly? Without hidden meaning?" Frost nodded, a lump forming in her throat. "Sometimes, when something really matters, it's best to say exactly what you mean." As understanding dawned on the Andromedans, their crystals chimed in harmonic resonance. The lead diplomat's voice was soft as it replied, We are glad." Truly, standing there, surrounded by beings so different yet so eager to connect, Frost felt a profound sense of hope for the future. The galaxy, vast and varied as it was, suddenly seemed a little smaller, a little friendlier. As they made their way to the conference room for the official ceremony, Frost turned to Quill. "You know, Commander, when I joined Starfleet, I never imagined I'd be teaching aliens about the finer points of human sass." Quill grinned. "Life's funny that way, isn't it? One minute you're exploring strange new worlds. The next you're the galaxy's leading expert in talking without talking." Frost chuckled. "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds absolutely terrible. I can't imagine a better way to spend my career." And as laughter echoed through the crystal halls, a new era of galactic communication dawned. An era where understanding could be found in the spaces between words, where connection flourished in the fertile ground of shared humor. The universe, it seemed, had developed a sense of irony. And Captain Alolan Frost, accidental ambassador of human snark, was right at the heart of it all.